However, Tanji seemed displeased by how everyone was listening to Beijing. Soon after, the students from Class B moved into Class A's classroom. So Class A students started sneaking into Class B, and as Wen-sen was leaving, Beijing told him, "If you don't help me study, that's okay. I can still secure a spot in the top 50 on my own." Wen-sen didn't respond to her. Later, when Gagi entered the classroom and saw the broken windows, she immediately figured out that Maji had done exactly what she had asked him to do. Soon after, they were taken to the teacher's wing, where the windows were broken too. Turns out, Maji only intended to break the windows of one place, but he ended up breaking Class A's windows as well. Now, as Gagi was outside, Wen-sen approached her, all detective-like, and asked if she was behind all this. She, of course, denied it, but while fixing something for Wen-sen during their chat, Teacher Ming happened to spot them. And he got the wrong idea. Assuming something was brewing between the two, he just walked up to them, threw a broken piece of glass near them, and left dramatically. Wen-sen noticed that the stone used to break the window had car repair oil on it. Meanwhile, Gagi was visiting her father, who, in classic dad fashion, started lecturing her. "Don't distract Wen-sen from his studies. He's a brilliant student. If his grades drop, I won't forgive you." Gagi, confused, failed to grasp that her father was basically telling her not to drag Wen-sen into a love story and mess up his studies. Wen-sen, now playing the role of a moral guide, confronted Meiji at night and told him to come clean to the teacher. Meiji, instead of admitting, got defensive and tried to attack him, yelling, "What proof do you have that I broke the windows? Didn't your parents teach you not to falsely accuse people?" But Wen-sen pointed out the car oil on the stones, linking them to a repair shop. He then calmly explained that if Meiji didn't confess, his friend could be suspended from school. That seemed to shut Meiji up. Turns out, Meiji really did sneak into the school and break the windows. Back in the present, Wen-sen, trying to ease the tension, told Meiji, "I saw your elephant toothpaste experiment. It was better than mine. If we had competed, you probably would have won." Then, in an unexpected move, he offered Meiji money, pleading, "Please, take this and confess your mistake at school." Right on cue, Beishing showed up and demanded, "What are you doing here?" Then she turned to Meiji and declared, "Wen-sen is mine, so you better not mess with him." Meiji, now convinced that something was indeed going on between them, returned the money and reassured Wen-sen, "Hurry, I'll tell the teacher the truth. If I made a mistake, I should be the one to fix it." As Wen-sen and Beishing walked away, she scolded him, "Next time, don't you dare go talk to Meiji alone." But then, softening a little, she admitted, "I got the study plan you sent me." Wen-sen, relieved, happily started explaining a few chapters she needed to memorize, and just like that, both of them seemed content. Especially Beishing, seeing how Wen-sen was helping Chao with his studies. Next day, Beishing and Wen-sen were studying together. Wen-sen was hesitantly trying to talk about himself and Gagi when Gagi showed up and playfully declared, "Wen-sen's free time belongs to me." Beishing, being all defensive, quickly explained, "It's not what you think. Wen-sen is just helping me study, but yes, I will protect him, so don't mind that." Wen-sen, now utterly baffled, just stared at Gagi, wondering why she was acting like she was his girlfriend. Gagi, laughing at how flustered the two were, left, satisfied with her mischief. In the class, Atanji was annoyed because rainwater was leaking in through the broken windows. Frustrated, she lashed out at Beishing, who, instead of arguing, just took her bag and switched seats with her. That simple act won over Zhang Yu, who observed that Beishing had changed a lot, probably for the better. Meanwhile, as Beishing focused on studying, Zhang couldn't stop staring at her, completely mesmerized. Due to Zhang Yu's sudden change means that the drama will now feature a love triangle. Meiji came to the teacher's office, where he was handing over money and admitting his mistake, saying that he was the one who broke the windows. The teacher is shocked and scolds him, telling him to bring his parents the next day so he can ask them how they have raised him so irresponsibly. Meiji explains that his family members are distant due to work, and no one really cares about him, and that he lives alone. Hearing this, Teacher Ming is surprised and asks him what kind of work he does. Meiji replies that he does whatever job he can find. Feeling bad for him, Teacher Ming returns his money and tells him that he will receive the same punishment as other students. He must do cleaning duties. He also hands Meiji a uniform shirt, saying that he should at least know that coming to school in dirty clothes is unacceptable. Initially, Meiji refuses to wear it, but when Teacher Ming insists, he agrees. The teacher announces to the class that it has been proven that Chao was not responsible for anything. Hearing this, Chao and Beishing feel relieved and happy. The teacher also informs them that the windows will be repaired, so the students need to move to their classroom, and they all agree. After school, Chao mentions that she also helped a lot, so he suggests inviting her to dinner with him and Zhang Yu. However, Beishing refuses. saying that she needs to study with Wen-sen in the library. As she leaves, Zhan Yu overheard their conversation. He feels bad that Bei Xing rejected dinner with him but chose to study with Wen-sen instead. In the school, Maji is cleaning while other students mock him. Frustrated, he throws off his uniform shirt. Just then, Wen-sen arrives to help him and explains that he and Gagi have been together since childhood, but there is nothing romantic between them. He asks Maji not to misunderstand their relationship. Maji falls silent and then tells Wen-sen to finish the cleaning quickly, implying that there is no longer any conflict between them. Meanwhile, in the library, Bei Xing is waiting for Wen-sen. Suddenly, Zhan Yu arrives and sits next to her. She asks him why he is there and suggests he sit elsewhere, but he refuses, saying that no seat belongs to anyone. Ignoring him, Bei Xing focuses on her studies, but Zhan Yu snatches her pencil and tells her that he has realized it wasn't so bad when she used to follow him. He suggests that she should approach him again and that if she wants to get into Class A, they should study together and aim for it. Bei Xing flatly refuses, saying she has no interest in following him anymore and tells him to stay away from her. As she leaves, Zhan Yu follows her. Meanwhile, Wen-sen is talking to Gagi and asks for her help in convincing Bei Xing that there is nothing between them. Just then, they notice Zhan Yu persistently following Bei Xing, annoying her. Wen-sen dislikes seeing this, and Gagi advises him that if he truly wants Bei Xing, he should confess his feelings to her as soon as possible. Hearing this, Wen-sen starts thinking deeply about it. The next day, Wen-sen is waiting for Bei Xing. When she arrives, they prepare to go to the library to study together. However, Zhan Yu also appears and declares that he wants to study with them as well. He asks Wen-sen to help him with his studies. Bei Xing sarcastically questions Zhan Yu's confidence in assuming Wen-sen would easily agree, considering how much effort it took her to convince him. Surprisingly, Wen-sen agrees to help Zhan Yu, leaving Bei Xing shocked. As the bus arrives, Zhan Yu quickly follows Bei Xing to prevent Wen-sen from getting close to her. Later in the library, Zhan Yu keeps disturbing Bei Xing, offering to help her study. Wen-sen, visibly annoyed, tells Bei Xing to switch seats and sit next to him. She complies, sitting beside Wen-sen while Zhan Yu watches. Wen-sen assigned both Zhan Yu and Bei Xing some math problems to solve. While Zhan Yu struggled to even begin, Bei Xing solved them effortlessly. This left Zhan Yu in shock, as he wondered when she had become so good at studying. He even suspected that her problems might have been easier than his. However, his doubts vanished when Bei Xing solved his problems as well, surprising him even more. Wen-sen then explained smugly that he had created a study plan for Bei Xing, which had helped her remember everything, including all the formulas. Zhan Yu, feeling annoyed, admitted that while Wen-sen might be better at studying, there was no way anyone could surpass him in basketball. Without giving Wen-sen a choice, he dragged him outside for a basketball match. Bei Xing, still busy packing, stayed behind. Outside, Zhan Yu realized there was no basketball court nearby. Quickly changing plans, he suggested cycling instead. Wen-sen, uninterested, expressed a preference for going back inside to help Bei Xing study. As he turned to leave, Zhan Yu reminded him that he had been in Bei Xing's life before Wen-sen and believed he had the right to be closer to her. Wen-sen stopped and questioned how Zhan Yu was so sure that he was the first person in Bei Xing's life. Zhan Yu, unable to answer immediately, decided to change the subject and suggested they start cycling. Wen-sen confidently agreed, but as soon as he sat on the bicycle, he lost balance and fell. At that moment, Bei Xing arrived and rushed toward him with concern. Seeing her worried expression, Wen-sen exaggerated his injuries, groaning dramatically. Zhan Yu, unimpressed, remarked that Wen-sen was clearly putting on an act after seeing a girl. Bei Xing, ignoring him, scolded Zhan Yu and helped Wen-sen onto the bicycle, taking him away while Zhan Yu stood there in disbelief. As they rode together, Bei Xing admired the pleasant weather and remarked that if Wen-sen hadn't been injured, they could have taken a walk instead. Wen-sen eagerly suggested that they still could, but Bei Xing refused. Despite her rejection, Wen-sen was content simply enjoying the bicycle ride with her. Later, at Wen-sen's house, Bei Xing was surprised by the sheer number of books and wondered if he actually read all of them. Wen-sen clarified that many belonged to his parents, who lived in Africa due to their business, while he lived alone. Bei Xing, taken aback, remained silent for a moment. As she applied medicine to his injured leg, Wen-sen finally confessed that there was nothing between him and Gagi, explaining that she was just a good friend. Bei Xing, unfazed, simply acknowledged his statement and moved on. She then noticed an old photo of Wen-sen and asked if he had once enjoyed playing basketball. She mentioned that Zhan Yu had always been passionate about basketball and that she had started liking it because of him. Recalling the day she first noticed Zhan Yu, she explained that he had been playing basketball at the time. Wen Sen hesitated before asking if she had liked Zhan Yu just because he was a good basketball player. Beixing denied this and revealed that she had liked him because he had saved her life years ago and had even injured his hand in the process. Wen Sen, upon hearing this, became quiet, seemingly lost in thought. It appeared as if he knew something, or perhaps Beixing was mistaken about the past. However, she soon dismissed her own memories as old events, stating that she no longer had feelings for Zhan Yu. She then went to the kitchen to cook while Wen Sen remained seated processing her words. A moment later, he realized that Beixing had moved on from Zhan Yu, and his mood instantly lifted. While she prepared the meal, he absent-mindedly picked up his old photo. Recalling a memory from their childhood, he remembered that he had always liked Beixing and had once planned to give her a friendship band and a letter. However, just as he had gathered the courage to hand them to her, she had turned away to ask someone for directions to the restroom. His moment had been lost, and since then, he had kept his feelings hidden. Later, Beixing opened the fridge and found it nearly empty. She was surprised and asked if Wen Sen even ate at home. Wen Sen explained that he usually ate out, prompting Beixing to casually mention that she would cook for him next time. Wen Sen, hearing this, was unable to hide his excitement at the thought of spending more time with her. When she was coming back after seeing her off, he spotted Meiji, who was struggling to buy a can of drink. Wen Sen helped him, demonstrating the correct way to use the machine. Meiji, impressed, remarked that Wen Sen was admired by teachers and girls alike. Wen Sen, however, responded that he found Meiji cool for being open about his feelings. Maji, curious, asked whether the girl who always argued with him was Wen Sen's girlfriend. Wen Sen denied it and explained that Beixing only wanted to get into his class, so he was helping her study. Maji then pointed out that if she was trying so hard to be in his class, perhaps it was because of him. Wen Sen hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Maji, taking matters into his own hands, suggested they ask Beixing directly. When Wen Sen and Maji arrived at Beixing's place, she was studying. Upon seeing Wen Sen outside, she immediately brightened up and rushed downstairs to meet him. However, her expression changed when she noticed Maji and questioned why he was there. Ignoring her question, Maji directly asked if she wanted to be in Wen Sen's class because of Wen Sen. Beixing, without hesitation, confirmed that she did. She explained that she wanted to be able to protect Wen Sen at all times and keep him safe from people like Maji. Satisfied with the answer, Maji turned to Wen Sen and remarked that they had finally gotten the confirmation they needed. He then left, leaving Wen Sen standing there, flustered and embarrassed. As time passed, Wen Sen and Beixing continued studying together every day. Beixing became well prepared for the upcoming monthly exam. When the exam day arrived, she took the test with full focus. Later, as the results were about to be announced, she eagerly searched for her name among the top 50 students. Beixing was searching for her name in the top giftee list, and she finally found it. She became extremely happy, thinking that she had finally made it into Class A. Wen Sen, who as always had secured the first position, congratulated Beixing. However, since his teacher was calling him, he left the place. Meanwhile, Zhan Yu approached Beixing to congratulate her as well and offered her ice cream, saying that someone had given it to him, but he wanted to give it to her. Beixing then asked him if he felt insulted because she no longer followed him. She told him to forget any hope that she would like him again, as that was now impossible. Saying this, she walked away, leaving Zhan Yu standing there, watching her go. Now Wen Sen's teacher introduced Beixing to his class, announcing that from now on she would be their classmate. Seeing Beixing, Wen Sen became happy. However, when the teacher assigned Beixing the last seat since it was the only one available, she felt disappointed because she wanted to sit with Wen Sen. Just then, Gagi stood up and moved to the back, allowing Beixing to sit next to Wen Sen. Excited, Beixing quickly took the seat beside Wen Sen and felt extremely happy. That night, Gagi, Wen Sen, Chao, and Beixing went out to celebrate Beixing's success. However, when Maji arrived, Chao became nervous, and Beixing was also surprised to see him. She asked why he was there, to which Maji responded, asking if he was not allowed to be there. Later, Maji was seen talking to Gagi. In reality, Gagi had invited Maji there. As they conversed, Chao suggested going to the beach for fireworks. However, Gagi declined, suggesting instead that they do it at the school. They all agreed and went to the school, where they began lighting fireworks. Everyone enjoyed the view, including Maji and Chao, who seemed pleased as well. Just then, the noise attracted teacher Ming, who arrived and scolded them. Beixing, Wen Sen, and Meiji immediately ran away, but Gagi stayed behind. Chao, in his attempt to take Gagi with him, also got caught. As a result, both of them were punished. Watching from a distance, Beixing wondered why Gagi had not run away. Meiji then explained that Gagi had brought them there on purpose to trouble her father. He further revealed that she often made him trouble her father, making him believe that she liked him. However, he had now realized that she was merely using him. Maji then bid farewell to Winsen and left. Curious, Beixing asked Winsen how he had become friends with Maji. Winsen simply replied that their friendship had just happened. On the other hand, as part of their punishment, Gagi and Chao had to run. When Gagi asked Chao about his dreams, he told her that he wanted to become a master comedian. Hearing this, Gagi promised to help him one day. In the next scene, Beixing was painting a banner to cheer for Wensen as he had a basketball match against Zhan Yu the next day. She wrote, "Wensen, you are the best." Wensen thanked her but joked about her handwriting being poor. Feeling offended, Beixing stopped what she was doing, but Wensen quickly clarified that he was joking. As Beixing's face was covered in paint, Wensen, after gathering courage, attempted to clean it off. Beixing simply stared at him, as this was the first time she had felt something for him. The next day, when Beixing arrived at school, she discovered that someone had thrown away her banner, ruining it. This made her upset as she wondered who could have done it. Winsen told her that it didn't matter as she had already supported him the previous day. However, Beixing refused to let it go and went to the storeroom to make a new banner. There, she encountered Tanji, who unknowingly revealed that she was the one who had ruined the banner. Shocked, Beixing questioned her, asking if she had lost her mind. However, deciding to deal with it later, she focused on making another banner. As she searched for materials, Tanji suddenly locked her inside the storeroom and left. Meanwhile, Wensen's basketball match was about to start when he noticed Beixing cheering for him from the window. Seeing this, he felt happy, as he had been waiting for her. However, as Beixing was standing on a stool, she suddenly lost her balance and fell, leaving her hanging. Struggling to hold on, she found herself in a difficult situation. Upon seeing this, Wensen became so worried that he abandoned the match and rushed to save Beixing. Zhan Yu, witnessing this, was left stunned. Wensen reached the storeroom and helped Beixing get down safely. His actions touched Beixing deeply, triggering a past memory. She recalled being trapped in a burning place during her childhood, struggling to breathe. Just then, a boy had come to rescue her, injuring his hand in the process. However, when Beixing later regained consciousness, she saw Zhan Yu in front of her with a bandage on his hand. This led her to believe that Zhan Yu was the one who had saved her. Now, in the present, as Zhan Yu ran towards Beixing, worried about her, she directly asked him how he had injured his hand. Zhan Yu casually replied that a cat had scratched him in childhood. At that moment, Beixing realized that Zhan Yu had never saved her, and her belief had been wrong all along. Later, she asked Wensen if they had ever met before. Wensen, unable to recall, said that he didn't remember. At that time, Beixing failed to see his hand, as it was all covered. However, she now suspected that Wensen was the one who had saved her in childhood. Determined to find out the truth, she decided to investigate. Next day, the news reported that the weather would be bad for the next few days. Meanwhile, Beixing took her brother's basketball t-shirt and left despite his protests as it was his favorite. On the other hand, Wensen went to buy steamed buns for Beixing. However, due to heavy rain, the restaurant owner was closing the shop. Despite Wensen's repeated requests, the owner refused to serve him. As the rain continued, Wensen helped the owner move his supplies inside. Grateful for his help, the owner eventually agreed to make the buns for him. Later, Wensen waited for Beixing with the buns in hand. When she arrived, he handed them to her. Surprised, Beixing asked how he had managed to get them. She saw that Wensen was all wet in the rain, so she took out her brother's t-shirt and handed it to Wensen, requesting him to change right there. Actually, she is doing this so she can check Wensen's arms and legs for marks. However, just then the school bell rings, and Wensen quickly makes an excuse and rushes inside. Now we see that classes for Class A and B are being held together. These are extra classes, while the rest of the school is closed due to bad weather. Everyone is sitting around complaining about why they didn't get a holiday. Beixing writes a note for Wensen, which Chao was about to throw toward him, but just then, Zhan Yu changes its direction and it lands directly on Teacher Ming's back. Teacher Ming picks it up and reads it aloud. Brushing had written, "Sorry for forcing you to change your t-shirt in front of me." Hearing this, all the students burst into laughter. The teacher angrily asks, "Who is this ill-mannered person who wrote such nonsense?" Left with no choice, Beixing has to stand up. Wen-sen starts getting nervous. The teacher then demands that the person for whom the note was written should also stand up. Before Wen-sen can react, Chao, Gagi, and Zanyu all stand up together to protect Beixing. The teacher mocks them, saying, "Look at these troublemakers and their gang." The teacher then tells Beixing, "3 people stood up for you, so now you will have to submit 3 chemistry papers." This makes Beixing extremely anxious, as the support from her friends has landed her in more trouble. While Beixing's brother, Len, is surrounded by a group of people demanding their money back. It turns out Len had sold them hair color from a bad brand, which caused them problems. Len tries to convince them that it wasn't his fault and that he had bought a good product. Just then, Meiji arrives and says, "Gao sent us to collect the money, with interest." As Meiji inspects Len's products, Len points at him and says, "This is the person who sold me the bad cream. Ask him for your money instead." Taking advantage of the distraction, Len runs away, leaving Maji trapped by the angry crowd demanding their money. Back at home, Len is sitting comfortably in some weird clothes when Beixing asks, "What are you wearing?" Len replies, "This is my new raincoat, which I plan to sell." "Isn't it cool?" Beixing scoffs, "Only a fool would buy this," and leaves. The next day, Len is seen outside Beixing's school trying to sell the raincoats. He grabs Wen-sen and pleads, "Please buy this raincoat. I'm very poor. My children are starving at home, waiting for me to bring food." Feeling sorry for him, Wen-sen buys the raincoat. However, when Wen-sen enters the school wearing it, Maji's friends notice and say, "That's Len. We saw him wearing this raincoat in the morning." Mistaking Wen-sen for Len, they attack him mercilessly, leaving him in a terrible state. Later, when Maji realizes that the person they beat up was actually Wen-sen, he is utterly shocked. In the classroom, the teacher announces that due to worsening weather conditions, extra classes are canceled. The students cheer in excitement. However, Beixing soon learns from Chao that Wen-sen is in the medical room after being badly beaten up. Worried, she rushes there and sees him wearing her brother's raincoat. She immediately apologizes, realizing that Len must have sold it to him. She offers to return his money, but Wen-sen refuses, saying, "I actually found this raincoat cute, so I bought it." He also decides not to tell her that Meiji was behind the attack, knowing that if she found out, she would start seeing Meiji in an even worse light. Beixing once again hands Wen-sen some clothes and insists that he change immediately. She is still trying to check for any injuries on his arms. When Wen-sen refuses, she steps aside, allowing him to change. At night, Maji is confronted by another gang that stops him in his tracks. He had previously fought one of them, and now they are out for revenge. Just as they are about to attack, Wen-sen intervenes, trying to defuse the situation. However, the gang warns him to stay out of it. Instead of backing off, Wen-sen throws his belongings at them and quickly drags Maggie away. The two run as fast as they can, but eventually get cornered. The gang thinks they have them trapped, but suddenly, Wen-sen and Maggie start throwing water at them, causing them to flee. Grateful, Maggie thanks Wen-sen, who advises him, "You shouldn't live like this." Maji sighs and replies, "I have no other choice." Wen-sen had always felt that no one in the world truly cared for him. Maji, upon hearing this, was taken aback when Wen-sen told him that if he wished, he could visit his home occasionally, since he considered Maji his friend. The unexpected kindness made Maji emotional. He found it hard to believe that someone as good as Wen-sen was willing to befriend him. The following day, Wen-sen was tutoring Beixing at his home. However, Beixing's attention remained fixed on Wen-sen's shoulder. As they began reading a topic related to shoulders, she persistently insisted on seeing his shoulder, despite Wen-sen's reluctance. He refused multiple times, unable to understand the reason behind her insistence. Suddenly, she lost her balance and fell onto him, bringing them uncomfortably close. As they locked eyes, their heartbeats accelerated noticeably. Their moment of unexpected closeness was interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. When Wen-sen opened the door, he found his teacher standing there with his daughter Gagi. The teacher had come to tutor Wen-sen, but was surprised to see Beixing there. He questioned her presence, to which Beixing explained that he himself had given her 3 chemistry papers to solve, and she had come to seek Wen-sen's help. The teacher then proceeded to teach the 3 students together. However, in the middle of the session, he received a call informing him that the school's statue had been damaged due to severe weather conditions. To address this, a competition would be held among the students to design a new one. Beixing, Gaji, and Wen-sen overheard the conversation. Beixing immediately recalled the design that had won a similar competition before. After the teacher left, Beixing sat down with the others and began sketching the same design, confidently asserting that it would surely be among the top 10. Wen-sen questioned how she could be so sure, but Beixing remained firm in her belief, insisting that their design would be the best. After putting in hours of effort, they finally recreated the design, just as Beixing had described, with Gagi taking the lead in drawing it. Exhausted from their hard work, They eventually fell asleep in the same place. When Beixing woke up, she noticed an opportunity to look at Wen Sen's hand more closely. To her shock, she discovered a familiar mark, one that confirmed he was the same person who had saved her life in childhood. A month later, the weather had improved and the school had reopened. As Beixing, Wen Sen, and Gagi arrived at school, their teacher informed them that their submitted statue design had been approved. Overjoyed by the news, the three of them celebrated enthusiastically. In her excitement, Beixing hugged Wen Sen, but quickly pulled away upon realizing what she had done. Embarrassed, she left the scene, leaving Wen Sen bewildered by her reaction. Gagi, noticing his confusion, reminded him that now that the statue was completed, he should take the opportunity to confess his feelings to Beixing. Later, Gagi visited her father's office to deliver some papers. To her delight, he mentioned that Beixing had told him about the design and that he found it impressive. Gagi was pleased to receive such praise from her father. A month passed and the completed statue was finally installed at the school. As the four friends walked together, Gagi reminded Wen Sen about his intention to speak to Beixing. Before he could respond, she and Chao walked away, leaving Wen Sen alone with Beixing. Before Wen Sen could initiate the conversation, he noticed that Beixing appeared distracted. Her gaze was fixed on Maji, who had dyed his hair red. The change in his appearance made him look exactly like the man from the video who had been seen attacking Wen Sen. A dreadful realization struck Beixing that Maji was the one destined to harm Wen Sen in the future. This thought sent her into a state of distress. Later, the four friends gathered to clean Chao's secret hideout, but Beixing remained preoccupied with her thoughts about Maji. In a sudden accident, a desk nearly fell on her, but Wen Sen acted quickly and pulled her out of harm's way. Once again, they found themselves in close proximity, and Beixing was reminded of how Wen Sen had saved her life during childhood. Gagi and Chao watched in silent astonishment. Sometime later, Beixing and Wen Sen went out to buy something. Taking the opportunity, Beixing expressed her gratitude, not only for Wen Sen's help that day, but also for saving her life in childhood. She revealed that she now realized he was the one who had rescued her back then. Wen Sen smiled and asked if she still remembered that incident from their childhood. Beixing assured him that while he might have forgotten it, she never could. She then vowed to protect him as well. Wen Sen, still confused, questioned why she believed something bad was going to happen to him. Beixing, determined, simply stated that she would never allow anything to happen to him and that they would always remain good friends. Upon returning, they found Chao sitting in a state of despair. Their teacher had informed them that the place where Chao held his mini-shows was soon to be converted into a parking lot, making it impossible for him to continue performing there. This news left Chao deeply saddened. Beixing tried to reassure him, telling him that in the future he would have a grand stage of his own. However, Chao remained silent. On her way home, Beixing happened to pass by Maji's repair shop. There, she was shocked to find Wen Sen's school shirt, still bearing his name badge and stained with blood. Panic overtook her. At that moment, Maji's friend approached and suspiciously asked what she was trying to steal. Alarmed, Beixing attempted to flee, but he grabbed her and behaved inappropriately. Before the situation could escalate, Zanyu arrived and intervened, physically confronting the man and demanding to know how he dared to lay a hand on his friend. However, more of the man's associates appeared, forcing Zanyu and Beixing to flee the scene. They ran for a long time, evading their pursuers. Finally, when they stopped to rest, Zanyu turned to Beixing and accused her of pretending not to have feelings for him, insisting that she still liked him. Beixing, wanting to clarify, explained that she had once believed he was the person who had saved her life, but now she knew it was actually Wen Sen. Zanyu fell silent for a moment before pointing out that he had saved her life that day as well. Beixing acknowledged his help, but told him that if he continued to stay with her, he would eventually regret it, as he did not truly love her. She assured him that, although he did not understand it at the moment, he would realize it in the future. With that, she left, leaving Zanyu feeling dejected as he began to understand that he truly did have feelings for her. The next day, while the teacher spoke, Zanyu's attention was entirely on Beixing and Wen Sen. Watching them together filled him with sorrow. Meanwhile, Beixing questioned Wen Sen about Maji. Wen Sen defended him, stating that Maji was a good person who had simply been burdened with life's hardships too soon. He acknowledged that Beixing did not see him as a good person, but he believed that Meiji still had the potential to become their friend. Beixing suddenly fell silent. Next day, Meiji went to talk to Lin, complaining that the red hair color Lin had given him had damaged his skin. He angrily questioned how Lin could dare to sell him a defective product. Meanwhile, Beixing arrived and overheard their conversation. Lin then warned Maji that he could report him to the police because he had witnessed Maji brutally beating up a schoolboy who had bought a raincoat from him. Beixing was shocked to realize that it was Maji who had attacked Wensen that day. The following day, Wensen was looking at the rabbit band he had never been able to give Beixing in their childhood. Just then, Maji arrived at his place, reminding him that Wensen himself had invited him over. The two sat and talked, and Maji noticed the rabbit band. He asked if Wensen wanted to give it to Beixing, and then advised him to take her on a camping trip. He suggested that Wensen should also invite their friends and during the trip confess his feelings to Beixing. But if he found it difficult to express his emotions directly, Meiji told him at least to ask her how she felt about him, whether she liked him or not. Wensen agreed to the plan. The next day, Chao was arranging another place for himself where he could practice, which made his friends happy for him. Meanwhile, Beixing noticed Wensen receiving a call from Meiji, which made her angry. She questioned why he was talking to Meiji so often. Later that night, Meiji was seen holding the rabbit band belonging to Wensen while lost in thought. At that moment, Beixing arrived and once again warned him to stay away from Wensen. Meiji, surprised, asked why she hated him so much. Beixing then showed him Wensen's shirt and asked if it was blood-stained. Meiji recalled an incident when he had accidentally spilled hair color on Wensen's shirt at the salon. He had taken the shirt to wash it, but Beixing in the present moment accused him. She said that Wensen is a good person who had never harmed anyone, so how could Maji possibly be his friend? Feeling deeply hurt, Maji responded bitterly, admitting that she was right. He did not deserve Wensen's friendship. In anger, he sarcastically confirmed that the stains on the shirt were indeed blood because he intended to kill Wensen. He then told Beixing that if she had gotten her answer, she could leave. As Maji moved to leave, the rabbit band fell out of his pocket. Seeing it, Beixing recalled a moment from the future where she had learned about an incident at Wensen's school. A student had committed suicide by jumping from a lighthouse, and a rabbit band had been found at the scene. She suddenly realized that this meant Maji was the one who would kill Wensen in the future. The realization hit her hard as she connected the dots. Wensen's body had been discovered with the rabbit band nearby. Just then, some people arrived and began fighting Maji and his friends. The fight turned brutal as both sides attacked each other mercilessly. Beixing watched in horror as Maji punched someone, remembering how, in the video from the future, he had beaten Wensen in the same way. Overwhelmed, she immediately called the police. Soon, the police arrived and arrested Maji and his group, taking them away. Maji, now in custody, seemed deeply upset. The next day was New Year's Eve, but Maji could not stop thinking about Maji and Wensen. She felt as if she had successfully changed the future. Later, she went to her parents and they all celebrated the New Year together. Meanwhile, Gagi's father prepared noodles for her, but she refused to take them. On the other hand, Wensen was spending New Year's Eve alone, as he did every year. Chao's parents were also introduced, showing how much they loved him, making their family a truly happy one. The next day, Beixing and Wensen were going on a camping trip where they first discussed Maji. Wensen was still worried about him being in jail. Afterward, the two wished each other a happy new year. That night, while the four friends were together, Gagi and Chao started teasing Beixing and Wensen, pointing out how their outfits matched perfectly. They jokingly asked if they were secretly dating, to which both denied any such thing. Shortly after, Gagi pulled Beixing aside to talk privately. She asked Beixing what she truly thought of Wensen, to which Beixing replied that they were just good friends. Hearing this, Gagi called her stupid for not realizing how much Wensen liked her. She explained that he wouldn't have agreed to help with her studies if he didn't care for her. He never even spoke to girls otherwise. Beixing was left completely shocked by this revelation. Wensen was looking at a message which stated that Maji had asked the sender to return Wensen's rabbit band. The message also mentioned that the band had been placed near his door. As Wensen read the message, he glanced at the band in his hand, realizing that he had actually found it outside his door. A little later, Wensen was alone with Beixing. He recalled Maji's advice, where he had told him to ask Beixing whether she liked him or not. Gathering courage, Wensen finally asked Beixing, "Do you like me?" Hearing this, Beixing was left in shock, unable to comprehend what he had just said. Wensen, on the other hand, felt happy inside after asking the question. However, before Beixing could reply, Chao called them both to come and watch the fireworks, so they went to join Chao and Gagi. While everyone was happily enjoying themselves, Beixing suddenly noticed the rabbit band in Wensen's hand. She was completely shocked, realizing that the future had not changed yet. Overwhelmed, she immediately asked him how he had gotten it and whether it belonged to him. Wen-sen explained that it was a gift for someone who was very important to him. The next day, Beixing visited Wen-sen at his house, only to find out that he was unwell and had not gone to school. As she looked around, she noticed a form that Wen-sen was trying to hide. Eventually, he revealed that he was planning to go abroad for further studies, something his parents had wanted for a long time. Hearing this, Beijing became sad, but also felt that it might be for the best. This way, nothing bad would happen to Wen-sen. Meanwhile, Chao shared some exciting news with Beixing, telling her that a big agency had offered him training. He was determined to follow his dream of becoming an actor, even if it meant skipping the college entrance exams. As they spoke, Gagi arrived and warned him not to join just any agency, insisting that he should take his entrance exams first. Chao initially refused, but then showed them his exam roll number, which was 1. Seeing this, Beixing remembered that during her entrance exams, desk number 1 had always remained empty. She also recalled how, in the future, someone had told her that Chao had become a famous actor who was constantly on world tours. Realizing this, Beixing chose to support Chao, believing in his dreams. Touched by her words, Chao became emotional and called her his best friend. Next day, Wen-sen and Beixing went to the zoo to spend time together. But while Beixing was shopping, a lady commented that her boyfriend was nice. Confused, Beixing asked who she was referring to, and the lady pointed at Wen-sen, who was standing behind her. This reminded Beixing of a mysterious old man's words, that her world was behind her. She suddenly understood that the man had been talking about Wen-sen all along. Realizing this, she felt truly happy, knowing that she was finally with someone who valued her. The two spent a wonderful day together, creating beautiful memories. At one point, as they passed by a tiger's enclosure, a loud roar frightened Beixing so much that she tightly hugged Wen-sen. To her surprise, she actually liked the way Wen-sen held her in return, making the moment even more special. Later, as they were heading home, Beixing kept glancing back at Wen-sen repeatedly, feeling happy that she had finally found her true happiness in him. The next day, Beixing met with the zoo owner to discuss her fireworks party plan. Although he appreciated her idea, he asked if she would be able to convince people to attend. Beixing confidently assured him that she would. She then explained that she was organizing the event as a surprise for her friend, who was leaving for abroad soon. Determined to make it happen, Beixing started persuading the public to join the fireworks party, but no one seemed interested. Just then, Zhang Yu arrived and offered to help. As he handed out papers, many girls eagerly took them because of his good looks, leaving Beixing completely shocked. The next day, when Beixing arrived at school, she looked exhausted. Wen-sen asked where she had been, but she didn't reveal anything. Later, Beixing resumed handing out flyers to promote her event, and once again, Zhang Yu came to support her. At that moment, Wen-sen called her, asking where she was. However, Beixing lied, saying she was at the library, unaware that Wen-sen was actually nearby and had seen her lying. When Wen-sen suddenly appeared in front of her, Beixing was left stunned. Feeling jealous after seeing her with Zhang Yu, Wen-sen accused her of lying to him because of him. He reminded her that their exams were approaching and insisted that she should come with him to study. However, Beixing refused, asking him to let her stay there just for that day. Zhang Yu also sided with Beixing, which made Wen-sen even more jealous. He then said that he had thought they were good friends, but it seemed that Zhang Yu was more important to her. Hearing this, Beixing also became upset and responded that she had only been trying to do something for him before he left, but he had misunderstood her. Hurt by his words, she angrily walked away, leaving Wen-sen standing there in shock. Later, Wen-sen deeply regretted his actions and tried to talk to Beixing, but she kept ignoring him. Noticing this, Chao decided to intervene and arranged a meeting for them, telling them that this was all he could do. Now it was up to them to resolve their misunderstandings. Finally, Wen-sen and Beixing apologized to each other, clearing up their differences, and became friends again. The next day, as they were studying again, Wen-sen noticed that Beixing was not paying much attention. He asked her if she did not want to pass with good grades. In response, Beixing assured him not to worry and confidently stated that she was going to shock everyone in the college entrance exam. During their conversation, she inquired whether he would take advantage of the situation if he knew the entrance exam questions in advance. Wen-sen replied that he would not, as one might pass once by cheating, but in life, no one could move forward without hard work. Beixing remained silent, realizing that Wen-sen's words were indeed true. Later, as they were returning home, Beixing appeared to be upset. Wen-sen asked her the reason, to which she explained that while she was happy about him going abroad for further studies and having a better future, She did not feel like letting him go away from her. She admitted that she wanted to enjoy her college life with him, studying together. Win-sen was surprised to see how much Bei-shing was disturbed by the thought of him going abroad. This made him decide that he would not go abroad but would instead complete his studies at the local university. Hearing this, Bei-shing was overjoyed. Win-sen then handed her his admission form, asking her to tear it up. She gladly tore the form, but carefully preserved his photograph, saying that she would keep it with her. Win-sen was even happier to realize how important he was to Bei-shing. At her home, Bei-shing was in her room, recalling Win-sen's words. She then tore up all the papers containing the entrance exam questions, as she had decided to work hard alongside Win-sen and score good marks through her efforts. The following day, during the mock test, to her surprise, all the questions that appeared were the same as those in the main entrance papers, indicating that the future had slightly changed. This confirmed that Bei-shing had made the right decision to rely on her own hard work, rather than depending on her future answers for the main entrance exam. Since she knew all the answers, she wrote them well. When the results were announced, the entire school was shocked, as Bei-shing secured the first rank while Wen-sen came second. Tang Yi accused Bei-shing of cheating, claiming that she could never have ranked first. Bei-shing remained silent, but Zhan Yu stepped forward to support her and questioned Tang Yi on what authority she was making such accusations. When Bei-shing tried to stop the argument, Zhan Yu firmly stated that he would not allow anyone to bully her. Annoyed, Tang Ji left the scene, while Bei-shing also started walking away. Zhan Yu followed her and asked why her phone had been unreachable lately, as he had tried calling her multiple times but received no response. Bei-shing revealed that she had blocked his number. Shocked, Zhan Yu asked why she had done so, as he had thought they would date each other once they got into university. Bei-shing told him to stop dreaming, as that was never going to happen. When Bei-shing and Wen-sen arrived in class, they noticed that Gagi looked extremely worried. She took them along in a bus and during the journey revealed that Chao had been kidnapped. She explained that he had called her, asking for money, and it was evident from his voice that someone was forcing him to do so. She reminded them that Chao had been invited by an agency for acting classes. Bei-shing recalled this and concluded that the agency was a fraud. The three then devised a plan. Bei-shing and Gagi would go inside under the pretense of handing over the money, and if they did not come out within half an hour, Wen-sen would call the police. In the agency, Chao was with a man, looking terrified. At first, Gagi tried to talk calmly, but soon she stood up and confronted the man, stating that she knew they were not going to make Chao a star but were merely using him for money. As she attempted to take Chao away, several men arrived and surrounded them, preventing their escape. Prepared to fight, Gagi was ready to defend herself, but the scene cut off to reveal that she, too, had been kidnapped along with Chao. Chao, surprised, remarked that he had called her for help, but now she had also been taken hostage. Gagi apologized, but Chao expressed gratitude, saying he was happy to see that he was important to her. Gagi admitted that, of course, he was important to her. In reality, both of them had started developing feelings for each other. Since they were having a heartfelt conversation, Bei-shing, who was also kidnapped, remarked that they had completely ignored her. In response, Chao told Bei-shing that he would always remember her kindness in every lifetime. Just then, there was a commotion outside as Wen-sen arrived with the police. Chao's parents also arrived, visibly worried about him, along with their class teacher. Finally, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. Wen-sen quickly rushed to Bei-shing and untied her ropes. Bei-shing became emotional, realizing how important and special she was to Wen-sen, as he always rescued her from trouble. The next day, the four friends were together again. Chao, however, looked quite upset because his parents had forbidden him from pursuing a career as an actor. Bei-shing reassured him, saying that he should not worry, as she still believed he would become a famous actor in the future, and that his family would eventually be proud of him. To lighten the mood, she showed them tickets to a fireworks festival, the event she had secretly arranged for Wen-sen for a long time. Finally, the four of them arrived at the zoo, where the fireworks display mesmerized them. They all loved the spectacle. One by one, they made their wishes. Wen-sen wished to attend university with Beijing. Meanwhile, Beijing silently wished for all her friends' dreams to come true. They were all overjoyed, enjoying the moment together. The next day, Maji was returning from prison. However, he seemed to have changed. Soon his boss Lee approached him and warned that he had no choice but to complete the assigned task. Otherwise, he would be killed. Maji did not respond and instead focused on a news broadcast on television. The college entrance exam was just 2 days away, so a group photo was being taken. While everyone was looking at the camera, Woon Sen was only looking at Bei Xing. After all this, Bei Xing was sitting sadly thinking about Meiji when Gagi arrived and started showing her art certificate, excitedly saying that she had finally been selected. Bei Xing congratulated Gagi, who then asked why she looked so upset. Bei Xing replied that it was nothing, but she was worried about Wen Sen. Gagi questioned why she was so concerned about him and then suggested that if Bei Xing was really that worried, she should stay at her house for the night. Since Wen Sen was her neighbor, Bei Xing could keep an eye on him and also help her convince her father, because she was planning to tell him about her dream that night. Bei Xing agreed, and Gagi called Bei Xing's house to inform them that she would be staying over. Gagi arrived home with Bei Xing and showed her father the art certificate, telling him that she wanted to become a painter. However, Teacher Ming got angry and told her that she couldn't decide her future on her own. Bei Xing tried to support Gagi, requesting Teacher Ming to support her as she was truly talented in painting. However, he refused to listen to either of them. This made Gagi furious, and she yelled at her father, saying that he had never understood her or cared about her happiness. She then stormed out of the house. Bei Xing found the situation strange and decided to go to Wen Sen's house to tell him everything. As Bei Xing was about to leave for home, Wen Sen stopped her and said that if she wanted, she could stay at his house that night. He mentioned that if she couldn't sleep, they could talk. Bei Xing was shocked by his words, and even Wen Sen himself felt awkward after saying them. Bei Xing then decided to go home but was interrupted when Teacher Ming arrived, saying that Gagi was missing and asked for help in finding her. Wen Sen mentioned that Gagi's phone was switched off. Just then, Zhan Yu arrived and was surprised to see Bei Xing and Wen Sen together so late at night. He told Bei Xing to come with him, saying he would drop her home. However, Wen Sen held Bei Xing's hand and insisted that he would take her home instead. At that moment, someone called out Bei Xing's name loudly. It was her father. He took Bei Xing home and scolded her harshly, demanding to know what she was doing with them. He told her that if he hadn't arrived at the right time, he wouldn't even have known what she was up to. Bei Xing tried to explain to her father that he had misunderstood the situation and assured him that nothing was wrong. She even offered to let him speak with Teacher Ming to confirm that they were only looking for Gagi. Meanwhile, Gagi was with Chao. She had chosen to meet him at such a time because she liked him. Chao explained to her that her father did not wish bad for her, and that he was only concerned about her future. Hearing this, Gagi felt a little relieved and finally agreed to return home. The next day, the teacher addressed the students, telling them that since the exam was scheduled for the following day, they could either study or rest as per their choice. Most of them decided to rest. While lying down, Wen Sen kept staring at Bei Xing non-stop. Finally, the day of the college entrance exam arrived. The students received their papers and focused on their exams. After finishing the test, Bei Xing took Wen Sen to the Ferris wheel, not wanting to leave him alone for even a moment. Wen Sen asked why they had come there, but she didn't answer out loud, thinking to herself that this place was far away from the lighthouse. Suddenly, due to some technical issue, the ride stopped. They decided to listen to a song together, the same song Bei Xing had heard with Wen Sen during her second time traveling. Listening to it, Bei Xing fell asleep. When she woke up after the rain stopped, she panicked, realizing Wen Sen was nowhere to be seen. Just then, he appeared in front of her, and out of relief, she hugged him tightly. Wen Sen was taken aback by her sudden action. In her mind, Bei Xing thought to herself that she had finally put an end to Wen Sen's death curse. As they left together, Bei Xing was visibly happy and said that they would now enjoy college life together. They started meeting every day, going out and enjoying themselves. When Bei Xing returned home, she looked at Wen Sen's photo and praised herself, thinking she had worked hard to save his life and had finally succeeded. Since she had now developed feelings for Wen Sen, she began wondering whether she should confess her feelings first or wait for him to do so. At the graduation party, all the students had gathered to celebrate. Teacher Ming introduced Wen Sen to a very intelligent girl, and upon seeing them talk, Bei Xing started feeling jealous. Meanwhile, Chao was imitating Teacher Ming, making everyone laugh. As usual, Wen Sen was with Bei Xing, but when the girl asked him which college he planned to join, Bei Xing, feeling jealous, left the place and sat somewhere else. Wen Sen, however, was only discussing Bei Xing's major with the girl. The girl then asked Wen Sen when he would confess his feelings to his friend, to which he replied that he would do so very soon. Later, Wen Sen asked Bei Xing if she would go out with him over the weekend, and she agreed. Meanwhile, Gagi was burning her paintings. Chao tried to stop her, but she cried, saying her father didn't care about her happiness and didn't understand how important painting was to her. Chao comforted her, assuring her that one day her father would understand. Hearing this, Gagi calmed down a little and hugged Chao tightly, shocking him. The next day, Chao was at Bei Xing's house when she received a message saying, "Meet me at the aquarium." She assumed it was from Wen Sen, believing he might finally confess his feelings. Excited, she quickly sent Chao back home, got dressed, and went to the aquarium. Upon arriving, she messaged Wen Sen to ask where he was, but he was surprised because he had not invited her there. Just then, someone knocked on his door. It was Meiji. He urgently told Wen Sen that they needed to rescue Beixing because her life was in danger. Shocked, Wen Sen rushed to the aquarium and took Beixing away. Back near their homes, Beixing asked why Wen Sen had brought her away so suddenly, but he didn't respond. Just then, Maji signaled him to turn around. Wen Sen did so and saw Maji's friends approaching. They asked if he had found Beixing because she wasn't in the aquarium. Maji lied, saying she wasn't there and that they should look elsewhere. After they left, Beixing, still confused, asked what was going on. Maji then showed her a message from his boss Li, who was looking for her. Maji was shocked and asked why they were after her. Maji explained that her brother Lin had taken a huge loan from his boss and then disappeared. Now, the boss wanted to find Maji to pressure Lin into repaying the debt. Maji, in distress, said she needed to find her brother, but Wen Sen stopped her, insisting that she should stay home for a few days for her safety. Following Wen Sen's advice, Beixing stayed home for the next few days, but she grew restless and bored. She then called Wen Sen to meet her. As they talked, they suddenly had to hide because Li's men were nearby. In the process, Wen Sen ended up very close to Beixing, making her heart race. His did too. They later decided to take a walk, but once again, Li's men spotted them, forcing them to flee. Eventually, they found a place to hide. Later, Maji messaged Wen Sen, telling him there was no need to hide anymore. He had convinced Boss Li that Beixing had gone abroad, so his men would no longer come after her. This news relieved both Wen Sen and Beixing. The next day showed they were relaxing together with Maji, thanking him for his help. When Wen Sen left for a moment, Beixing asked Maji if he planned to stay there permanently. Maji explained that he had always loved fighting, which was why he had joined the gang. However, since Wen Sen had suggested that if he liked fighting, he should consider joining the army instead, he had decided to do so and start a new life. Beixing's exam results were about to be released, making her very nervous. When the results came out, she was shocked. She had scored very well. Her parents were also very happy. Later, in the library, Beixing looked troubled. Although she had received good marks, she feared she wouldn't be selected for the same university as Wen Sen. Just then, Gagi arrived and told her she had given up on painting because she believed her father would never approve, so she wasn't going to the art academy. Beixing was shocked and immediately went to talk to teacher Ming, who was drinking with another teacher. Beixing sat with them and, after drinking a little herself, started scolding teacher Ming. She said he treated his daughter like a student rather than considering her happiness. She then calmly explained that if he supported Gagi, their relationship would improve. Teacher Ming listened carefully and then asked if Gagi would accept him as her father if he allowed her to go to art school. Beixing assured him that Gagi would not only accept him but would also see him as the best father in the world. Convinced, teacher Ming finally agreed, making Beixing very happy. Later, as Wen Sen was holding Beixing, she suddenly became emotional and asked him what would happen if they didn't get into the same university. She wondered if he would fall for someone else and forget about her forever. Wen Sen laughed and reassured her that this would never happen because no other girl could take her place. As he showed her the moon, Beixing looked at him intently and at that moment, finally kissed him. Wen Sen was completely shocked by her sudden action.